It's good to be in a room full of friendly folks. Always enjoy this group. Didn't get a chance to see you guys last year, but I saw you my first year in 2019. Didn't get a chance to see many people last year as we were dealing with the global pandemic, but wanted to share some information on what we've been doing at BREC. But more importantly, give you an opportunity to ask me questions about what's been going on. And so everything we do at BREC, whether it's designing parks or cutting grass or even cleaning the toilets, you know, we talk about how it relates to the mission of BREC, which is contributing. We're one of many that's contributing to a healthier, everything we do has to be about health and wellness, more vibrant. You know, we talk about social equity, conservation, those sort of things when we talk about a vibrant community. And we do that by providing exceptional, we do strive to be exceptional in the parks we provide, the open spaces, and the experiences we provide. One of our values is excellence. We have 10 values. We also have service, equity as some of our other values. And we do that for all of East Baton Rouge Parish. And over the last couple of months, we have to emphasize that all part. As we, we give you a glimpse of the number of things that we have to take care of. Oftentimes, you may hear BREC has so many employees or BREC's budget is so big. That's because we have over $175 million worth of property and land that we have to take care of. And unlike other governmental agencies, our main focus is to get people to come out to nice parks and nice facilities. So we're always updating, making sure that the maintenance is correct, improving, renovating facilities. And so you see 181 parks. Some of the interesting things, we have 4 boat launches, always trying to make more of those. We have 1 air gun range, a lot of interesting things. Our variety of services that we provide is often what distinguishes us from other park and recreation agencies around the country. And so as we've been dealing with what appears to be historic rainfall over the past couple of weeks, this slide is just a reminder that our parks are working for you even during the time of rain and storms. You know, you're not able to get out and walk the track or walk the trails that we have or play on the swings. But nonetheless, our parks are doing what they've, quite frankly, designed to do. Many of our parks are in the flood area. In fact, we acquire land so that land is not developed on, so that we can create a recreational opportunity, an opportunity that has multi-purposes. 1, for health and wellness, to get out and exercise. But 2, this is another purpose, that a benefit of parks, and the ability to be able to hold water. And we're proud that as part of the watershed initiative for the work that we're doing at Greenwood Park, in the Baton Rouge Zoo, where we're widening the lake there, we're improving some canals and bayous in that area. We were awarded $4.7 million from the Watershed Initiative. So again, great example of leveraging your tax dollars in order to receive these federal dollars to improve your parks. Uh-oh, got a happy finger there. Oh, that's why I probably wanted to slide by that. That's probably why. And so April 2nd, 2021 is going to be a, infamous date in the history of my life, because it was a Friday evening. I got an email from somebody saying, look at this bill that had been filed by Senator White. And so since April 2nd, through May 27th, almost 2 months, this was the #1 focus that we've been working on to make sure that your park system remained the same. And the whole reason for that was because we think it benefits the entire parish, regardless of what part you stay in, that we remain together. We talk about all the awards that we've won, the national accreditation since 1994. All of that happened because we had everybody working together. And so we feel it's important, and quite frankly, you know, it was just, once the city of St. George, or the proposed city of St. George, was removed from the bill, we were only looking at about a $5 million difference in our budget, which, you know, is in excess of $100 million. So financially, it wasn't a big deal to BREC, but ultimately it was about the people in Central and the people in Zachary. If you live in those areas, quite frankly, you're getting a benefit from being part of a larger system. You know, all around the state we have smaller systems, but they don't have the benefit of leveraging dollars from an entire parish so that we can have things like the zoo and Bluebonnet Swamp and do conservation efforts all across the parish. You know, we have botanists and natural scientists and all those sort of things that I don't think Central or Zachary is interested in hiring. But all of those things are important at having a great park system. And so that was, you know, that plus the fact, look, if the people of Central and Zachary came to me and said they wanted their own park district, it's their tax dollars, and while I would disagree with that, I'm basically just a steward of those tax dollars. But that did not happen. This was not the community requesting this. It wasn't, quite frankly, even the elected officials in the community. It was pretty much a request of one gentleman, and because of folks like yourself in this room who came and spoke up and sent emails, called in the radio shows, we believe that all of that support and momentum ultimately help come to the resolution that we have. And look, the resolution, we call it a compromise, but I don't know if it's a compromise if we agreed to do something that we always were doing anyway, and that's to have these advisory councils to be able to get community input from these different parts of the area. It's something that's actually recommended by the National Parks and Recreation, and probably something we can do a better job at anyway. So we welcome the opportunity to receive additional feedback from all over the parish, and so we will study how to pull together the best advisory councils from practices across, and we will talk with elected officials in each one of these areas to make sure that they have sufficient input about how the process is going along. But at the end of the day, what makes us successful is the input that we receive from the community. The more we have, the more we know what to build, and as a result, the more participation we get from those type of things. So it's a win-win for the community. And so now we get to talk about all the fun stuff, which is what I signed up for in the first place when I accepted the job back in 2019. And as you can see, it's a great time to be in Baton Rouge, a great time to be in this parish, because we have wonderful transformative projects that are coming to the community. And they're coming because of people working together. You know, we can go down the list. Zoo in Greenwood, that certainly had a lot of community input on that. If you were here back in 2018 as we talked about the location, and everyone came out to speak about that. City Park Lake, I think there's probably 5 or 6 different entities that are working to make that become a reality. You know, BREC, LSU owns 4 lakes, City Parish owns 2 lakes. BREC is responsible for maintaining the 2 lakes that City Parish has. You have DOT with a bridge that goes over the lake. So there are many, many people that had to sit down at the table to make that happen. Airline Highway Community is becoming our next community park. You know, we talk about Highland and North Sherwood and Anna T. Jordan, all those great community parks with ball fields and splash pads and all those things. Airline Highway will be our next one. Frenchtown Conservation Area, where the co-meet meets the A-meet, 500 acres of pristine conservation area in Central. We're building a $2 million facility there. And we'll go through all of these in a little more detail. New new recreation centers at Howell and Jackson, Expressway Park. Because of the impact of the I-10 widening, we've received federal dollars to improve that park. The Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan we're working on with many different partners. And green infrastructure and resiliency, which we've talked a little bit about already. Just to get through some of these quickly, we talk about the zoo. We had a great groundbreaking on December the 8th. Wonderful things that are happening right now, as well as throughout the rest of the year. We're going to have a brand new entrance in the middle of the zoo because we're changing the entrance in the middle of the park, the middle of Greenwood Park. We're changing the entrance. You will no longer go down Thomas Road, but now you go down Highway 19. Just as you enter Greenwood Park, you will enter the zoo. That way we'll have a lot more with the zoo and the park being in the same location. One could park at the zoo and have a great time at the zoo and leave and come back to the same parking area and say, wow, we haven't been to the park in a while, let's go to the park. So we're excited about what's happening at the zoo. We talked about the new entry. Part of what's happening at the park is this boardwalk that's going to connect both the park and the zoo through this very educational boardwalk. The play area, we're going to have a new playground at the park where, you know, kids are walking through the trees and elevated play areas. The Lakes Project, one of the most exciting things about the Lakes Project is that it is moving forward. I'm not from Baton Rouge, but I've certainly heard the news about how this has been something that the community has wanted for well over 30 years. So I'm excited to be part of the team that was able to sit down at the table, figure out where the money's coming from, when is it coming from, and be able to work on that agreement. And so we're looking at dredging of those lakes starting either later this year, certainly no later than the first quarter of next year, where you'll see sediment being removed. And, you know, we're talking about making the lakes deeper. That makes the water healthier for the fish, but it also provides for great recreational opportunities, fishing. Right now, the lakes are probably about 12 inches deep, you know, so not much oxygen for fish to survive. I think if you put a boat in there right now, you'll probably bump into a stump before you get too far. So we're looking at, and then we're going to use that dredge from making it deeper to build safer. We're going to build out the shore a little more to be able to build bike trails along the shore of the lakes. And so now when people are walking or exercising or pushing strollers, they're not trying to dodge cars at the same time they're trying to do that, which is what's happening right now. So we're excited about what's happening at the Lakes Project. There are some wonderful pictures and shots, and so you see people walking safely, not in the middle of the street. That's one of the goals there. Airline Highway Community Park, we have some great things going on there. We finished the master plan earlier this year. And just like with the zoo and the lakes, we don't do master plans just to put them on the shelf. And so later this year, as we, you know, try and manage the many projects we have going on, we will start the design process of what happens at airline, phase 1, phase 2, those sort of things. But if I can go back, you can see the right in the middle of it, the large area remains the same. We still want to be able to accommodate large events. It's one of the few areas in the parish, and even though this one is close to Santa Maria, it's not as close as most of our parks in terms of neighborhoods. And so we're still going to have that big lawn area to be able to host large events and music events. I think we have one actually coming up this weekend, and we're going to have baseball fields, improved baseball fields to do, but also, you know, we talk about the green infrastructure, and this is going to be an example that we use not only for Louisiana, but for the entire nation. As airline held a significant amount of water in 2016, I think over over 2 billion gallons. We talk about, you'll see later on, we held almost 10 billion gallons in 2016. I believe 2 billion of them were right here at Airline. Our goal is to hold even more as we go forward. And so you can see we're building out number 8 there, an inland sort of body of water. But if you want to be adventurous, you can actually go out to Bayou Manchac, which connects towards Creek. And so looking forward to all the great things. You can see the little boathouse in the top right-hand corner. And then you can see the ball fields at the bottom left, sort of walking between that area. And there are some great educational opportunities from a historical, cultural, ecological perspective. I must have a heavy finger. Okay. Yep. And so a safe room is going up at Airline Highway as well. And what a safe room is, it's a place where emergency personnel will congregate during times of disasters and storms. This is being funded with FEMA dollars because we're going to have hurricane walls that are able to sustain hurricane-resistant winds up to 150 miles an hour. This will be a place where the power won't go out and stuff like that. But 99.9% of the time, when there's not a disaster, there's going to be a state-of-the-art recreation center, workout facility, multiple basketball goals. We're going to have one here at Airline as well as Memorial because those are central locations when we're talking about disasters. Obviously, Airline allows emergency to go, north and south throughout Louisiana, and Memorial is also a great place in terms of center of the community. Frenchtown, we talked a little bit about the building that's going up at Frenchtown Conservation Area. If you think of Bluebonnet Swamp, this is going to be sort of a new and improved Bluebonnet Swamp as we focus on nature and the improvements that we're doing there. There are some examples of what we're bringing to Frenchtown. You see the folks walking amongst the trees there. Jackson Community Park, also in Central, part of Phase 2 is a new recreation center as well as a new playground there. HOWELL Recreation in 2016, HOWELL Community Center, 70805 area on Windbarn, took on 8 feet of water in the facility. And unfortunately, FEMA basically came to us and said, we think because you have these cylinder block walls and those sort of things, we think you can just wash it off and keep going. And so after having 8 feet of water, we decided that the community deserved more than that. And so we tore down that old facility and we're building a new recreation center right in the 70805 area. It's going to have a new swimming pool, as you can see there. The work on that is starting now, and we're looking forward to bringing this to the community. Expressway, as I talked about with the new I-10 widening project, we're going to be making improvements to Expressway. A lot of parks around the country take advantage of parks that are under interstates and do a lot of cool things. You can see a design here at the bottom right, one we're looking at. But this is going to be a great park. I think we receive over $2 million from DOTD and the adverse impact that it's going to have to this park. And it's not going to have a significant impact. One of the things that we're excited about, there's a trail that will go from Expressway Park to East Polk Street Park. That trail is actually being built by DOTD, but we'll pick it up from East Polk and we'll be able to connect that old South Baton Rouge community directly to Dalrymple there right next to the lake. And so excited about bringing that access to that community. Here are some more pictures of what folks do in terms of parks that are under interstates. Parish-wide bike and pedestrian master plan we're working on bringing. This is a 20, 30-year plan, but we're talking about over 400 miles of connectivity trails to be able to connect people to, when we talk about bikes and trails, I always have to emphasize it's not just about, people riding, you know, $1,000 bikes with their nice bike suit on and their nice helmets. You know, a lot of this is about connecting people to be able to walk across the street to the grocery store without having to worry about getting hit by a car. You know, whether it's a sidewalk, whether it's a trail, this is about alternative means of transportation. It's about safety. Unfortunately, this plan was funded by the federal government because we are one of the leaders in pedestrian fatalities caused by vehicles. So we're looking to improve that significantly, working with city, parish, and a lot of other private donors to get those servitudes to be able to build those trails. And here's an example of those greenways that we're referring to those connections now. The Health Loop, Pennington Trail is probably our most popular one, but also at the lakes, you know, those are trails as well. The BLUEWAYS, we're excited about getting people out and connecting from park to park on BLUEWAYS as well. Some of the body waters that we have our first sort of kayak launches at Highland Road Park. If you have a kayak, you're welcome to go launch and get into Bayou Fountain. But we're also making a connection at Manshack, which is near Ascension. And we talked about Airline earlier. We're going to be having a boat launch at Airline as well. So looking forward to getting people out on the waters. One of the beautiful benefits about being in Louisiana, again, to not only fear the water, but to enjoy the water and to be able to use it for recreational purposes. And so we talked a lot about designing for resiliency, and certainly all of our parks, not necessarily all to just hold water, but the slow release of water back to its natural state is also something that we work on, whether it's a parking lot that we have. Bluebonnet Swamp has a great example of a resilient sort of parking lot where it's not all just paved cement, but we work with the land in order to make it a great place. And so green infrastructure, that's different than gray infrastructure, right? Which are the big pipes that go underwater go underground in order to handle a lot of our stormwater. I'll just give you an example of all the construction that we have going on, the number of projects. We were very intentional last year to keep those construction projects moving forward. We saw how the pandemic was impacting the economy, and construction was the one area that was allowed to continue moving forward because, you know, it was a place where you can social distance, I guess. It was outside, and so construction continued to move forward, and we calculated a $45 million impact we had on the community last year as a result of moving those forward and accelerating some in some instances. BREC Golf continues to strive and play at a high level. Significant increases last year that are continuing this year when it's not raining. People are really taking it to heart to get outside and do things outdoors, and golf was one of the things you could always do last year. We stopped for a little while just so we can sort of retrofit our facilities with plexiglass and those sort of things. But yeah, for the most part, golf continues to do well. And we're doing a new golf course right now, J.S. Clark. We talk about Greenwood and the zoo, but also what's happening at Greenwood is over $1 million of improvements at J.S. Clark's golf course. So we're looking forward to that opening sometime later this year as well. We have this month at BREC where we talk about everything that's going on at BREC. One of the things, if you have young eyes and you can see up there, is that summer camp is starting today. We're very excited about that. If you can just think about where we were this time last year, the first week of June, you know, we had to do a lot of virtual stuff, but we had well over 500 people sign up just this last week. That's quite the difference from the normal 200 that we typically see during the last week. And so we have camps all around the parish. Liberty Lagoon is once again open, and we're excited about that. We still are taking COVID-19 precautions at camp, as well as at Liberty Lagoon. You know, at Liberty Lagoon, we have sessions. You can buy a ticket online. That's a new precaution. But you can buy a ticket from 10 to 1, or from 2 to 5, or from 6 to 9. And part of the reason we do that is to manage the crowds, but it also gives staff an hour in between each session to wipe down, you know, the sides of the pools and those things that where people, common areas, or people are touching and those sort of things like that. Same thing with camp. A lot of activities outside, making sure kids remain socially distanced, dropping your kid off outside. We don't have parents coming in and out of the facilities. So those are some of the things that we're doing. But and I think the next slide, if you're welcome to take a picture of that with your phone. It'll bring you to where you can sign up for our newsletter and keep as much information you want about BREC. And there's my email. I have my business cards with me as well. But that concludes my presentation. I'm sure I went over. I apologize. But this is the part you've been waiting for. Mr. Huey has the question.
Thanks to his radio show, you seem to throw open the door to the idea of repurposing the historic City Park Golf Course, which celebrates its 100th anniversary in 2026. What's the thinking behind that?
Yep, and so if you get, the question was regarding City Park Golf Course. On Jim Inkster's show a week or so ago, there was a question about the golf course, and my response was that there are no plans to repurpose the golf course, but I always keep an open mind. I can't remember my exact words, but it says, I reserve the right to change my mind, is what I said. And apparently that came across the wrong way. I'm certainly not soliciting proposals for City Park right now. In fact, City Park continues, just like the rest of our golf courses, continue to perform at a high level. The courses we have repurposed have been HOWELL, which the National Golf Foundation told us was the lowest playing 18-hole golf course in America, and Dumas, which we're repurposing as well because we're currently subsidizing almost $500,000. And so City Park is not in either one of those categories. And my comment was more towards 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. If there's information in front of me, and I'm still allowed to be the superintendent of BREC, if I do reserve the right to look at that information. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position that can say, this will never happen, or this will always happen. Most politicians do that, but I'm not a politician. And so while I can't promise, like any decision, I'm a steward of taxpayers' dollars, and I have to weigh everything that's going on with those dollars to, again, go back to the first slide, providing exceptional recreational experiences for all of East Baton Rouge Parish. Sometimes that broad mission conflicts with smaller defined missions. And so, but I don't have any plans to do anything with City Park right now other than City Park Lake. And I will continue to work towards making sure City Park Golf Course remains one of the best golf courses in the history of BREC. But if faced with information that says we need to do something else, then I reserve the right to make that decision. Yes? two questions. The first question was the impact on Senators White legislation. How would it impact some of the projects that we talked about earlier? And so certainly when we committed to making the improvements at the zoo, when we committed to providing funding with City Park Lakes, it was with the understanding that our revenue stream would remain intact. And so again, this would be a 5% or maybe even less impact to that thinking going forward. But more importantly, another concern that we all had was if Central and Zachary were no longer contributing to a parish-wide system, does that mean they would no longer participate in a parish-wide system? And so we knew the answer to that is no, right? We know Central and Zachary would still continue going to the zoo and playing golf and doing all those sort of things. So that was another reason we thought the bill was not a good bill, because we believe Central and Zachary should continue contributing to that parish-wide system because they participate in it. The second question had to do with a study that was done, and I think we're referring to and it's at City Park Lakes. And so what we're working on now, the foundation, is that 2014 feasibility study that was conducted. I think it was $1 million that was contributed. I don't think it was a $10 million study. But yeah, so that is the foundation of it. But just like any other master plan, even with the zoo, once you get down in the nitty-gritty and you start, maybe we can't put it right here because, we can't put it right here. So that is the sort of high-level foundation, and we do have designers on board. We're actually out there studying the water right now to make sure we can do everything that we think we can do. But yeah, that is the foundation of it. Same study. We have several agreements with the school board. We actually have an educational brochure that the zoo provides. One of the things, and so our three pillars. And when I say our, nationally, parks and recreation, health and wellness, social equity, and conservation are our three main focus areas. But with that, a lot of other benefits. Education is one. We always talk about when kids are playing, they're actually learning. Even this summer, we have an agreement with the Central school system, ironically, that they're doing school for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day, they're doing recreational things. But all of our, whether it's at Bluebonnet Swamp, whether it's at Magnolia Mound, or whether it's at the zoo, they all meet the statewide curriculum in terms of education. And so we do have some things in place, but it is an opportunity for us to be doing a lot more there. Certainly and one of the great things that turned out from Senate Bill 205 is we did have a lot of that community, environmentalists, conservationists, talked about the impact that those services have on the entire parish and how it would be difficult for Central Zachary to continue doing those things on their own.
What's your current thinking?
So the question was, what's my thinking on firearms in parks as it relates to some proposed legislation? Our park rules say you can't have guns in parks, but as you know, any state or even city law would trump that rule, and we would have to abide by those rules. We're not going to change our signs anytime soon saying, bring your guns to parks. Our signs will still say guns are prohibited. But we'd have to abide by the law just like everyone else would. We don't think guns in parks are a good mix, and we certainly would hope that even if this passed, we can see some sort of exemption for parks, likewise with schools and those sort of things. But that's my personal thinking on it. We haven't talked to legislators or elected officials about that at this point. Yeah, the question was, has companies such as Marucci and Traction which sort of focus on travel baseball and very competitive baseball, very expensive baseball. What's the impact of that on BREC? I can tell you we've had conversations with both of those organizations because we do need to bring the world that we serve, recreational, any kid with a bat and ball, go to a park and swing. They haven't impacted that, you know. But we need to be able to not only have nice fields and nice turf leagues for folks coming from out of town, we need to have that for our community as well. So one of the things that airline we're working on is to have a nice baseball field. Now, how nice it is will depend on whether Traction and Marucci wants to participate, but we're funded by East Baton Rouge Parish, so that's always going to be our focus. That's why we don't have any, you know, state-of-the-art tournament level where we attract in folks from out of town, because even when we do that, say at Burbank, we host regional soccer tournaments at Burbank, and we may spend thousands of dollars to get that field nice and pretty for that tournament to play, but those hotel tax and sales tax and those sort of things, those things don't accrue to the benefit of BREC. Hotel tax goes to Visit BR, sales tax goes to the city of Baton Rouge. I will say we have worked together over the last several years to make sure BREC does recover some of its expenses because, again, it's the taxpayers' dollars, and whenever we have folks coming from out of town to use our facilities, we hope that they can pay for those because we're paying for them now. And the question was I aware of the widening of the DOT, the I-10, that it would go from 90 feet to 170 feet. I was not, I knew it was a widening project, so I knew it was going to be wider, but I did not know the specifics. I will say we've been in meetings with DOTD, talking about the type of bridge that would go over the lakes, you know, how many pillars would be in the water, those sort of things. And so we are in there. Look, they're a long ways away from doing this work, as you know, but we're happy that we're involved early on. The same folks who are working on City Park Lake, those designers are talking with DOTD, so we are at least on the same page with that. How important is green infrastructure to us versus a place like Arizona that doesn't get much rain? I would imagine Arizona has its challenges, just like we have, and maybe their challenge is not enough rain and water, and they're probably thinking of creative ways in order to address that. I would imagine they're using their parks to do that as well, and whether that's to capture and hold water and use it later on, the same principles apply in terms of using your natural resources as a solution to a problem, and it doesn't always have to be mechanically engineered with you know, great infrastructure, as we call it. The question was, when will we have a final design basis and budget for the project? And so what I'll say in terms of the amount of money we have right now is sort of determines our budget, and that's $15 million. That's $5 million from BREC. And again, that's because we are required to maintain City Park as well as Lake Erie. We have $5 million from City Parish, which comes from the Move BR. It's specifically for trails because that's what it was voted on by the citizens. And then we have another $5 million from the Office of Community Development statewide. And so with that $15 million, we're limited. The entire plan as proposed in 2014 was $40 or $50 million, and you know, we're in 2021, so that number's probably bigger now. But that $15 million we have in hand now would go towards the design work for dredging City Park Lake and Lake Erie, It will also go toward the design work for dredging all of the lakes. It will go towards the design work for dredging all of the lakes. But in terms of actual construction, those dollars are only going to allow the dredging of City Park and Lake Erie, and it's only going to allow the trail design around City Park. As you can see, we wanted to say if we're participating, BREC's participating, then we have to make sure City Park and Lake Erie are taken care of. And so those are the things that are being taken care of now. We just saw Senator Foyle talked about another $5 million towards the project, and we do believe in future years we'll get additional money which will go towards the dredging of the 4 LSU lakes, as well as the actual construction of the safer trails around there. So it's a work in progress, I guess. There's never really an end date on any of this stuff. Quite frankly, part of the reason the lakes are the way they are now is because there wasn't a continual maintenance of them. That's one of the things when we talk about the lake, the zoo. The zoo turned 50 years last year. And it looks like 50 years. And so one of the things, this new design for the lakes and the new design for the zoo, it'll put us in a position to continuously improve those things, which is best practice. We shouldn't do something for 50 years and then try and improve it, you know? The question is, what are we going to do besides dredge the lakes? Yes. And so we will also build and construct the bike paths around City Park Lake. And so we're gonna do the design work for the dredging of all 6 lakes. We're gonna do the design work for the trails around City Park, but in terms of actual construction, dredging of City Park and actual trails around City Park. The question was, besides advisory boards, is there anything else we're putting in place to ward off another Senate bill being filed next year? And so what I'll say to that, because certainly I've given it thought, you know, what are we going to be like next year this time? So advisory boards is one, because that's what was talked about in front of the committee, and so it's important that we follow through with advisory committees. But number 2 is basically continue doing what we're doing. And what I mean by that, this time next year, we would have a groundbreaking of a $400,000 dog park in Central. By this year, next time, we'd have a groundbreaking of a $2 million conservation facility at Frenchtown. By this time next year, we'd have turfed 3 additional fields at Central Sports Park, another $600,000 project. By this time next year, we've done and finished Jackson Community. And so just continuing doing the work that we're doing, celebrating, working with the community, but also the third piece I would say is the communication piece. Certainly when this session is over, I will email and reach out to Senator White to say, hey, let's sit down and talk. I will reach out to Zachary and say, hey, let's sit down and talk. And so I will be proactive in that. And hopefully, you know, and I'm not going to just send one email and say, hey, I just sent an email and they didn't respond. I will, because communication is all the key about all of this. And so I'll make it a point to keep myself in front of some folks who aren't as pleased with us as I would like them to be. I'll make sure I'm paying special attention to them.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Oh, my message today was parks are great, and that there's a lot of great new things coming to Baton Rouge as a result of the community working together. And so overall message, because we talked a little bit about Senate Bill 205, was the importance of remaining together. You know, we've achieved a lot of great things as a park system by working together as a community, and we're currently working on a lot more great things to come. So just sticking together and helping each other out.
What is the value of having a consolidated BREC representing all of East Baton Rouge Parish?
Yeah, we are able to leverage resources by being consolidated, and so we don't have to dedicate resources to one area. we have resources that are able to take care of multiple areas, whether that's our conservation team, whether that's our maintenance team. I mean, those guys cross jurisdiction line. They take care of parks in Central and Zachary and Baker and all other areas. And so the bigger you are, you have an opportunity to leverage that a little better versus a smaller district. And you have a lot of specialty things that we're able to provide as well in terms of our conservation efforts. I mean, our extreme park, the Bluebonnet Swamp, a lot of specialty items like that smaller districts aren't able to provide.
You mentioned a couple of key projects such as the zoo and City Lakes. Update us on those.
Yeah, so the zoo, we started groundbreaking December the 8th. That project's moving right along. We're going to have a new giraffe feeding exhibit. We're going to have a new underwater hippo viewing exhibit. A lot more. We're going to have a new front entrance to the zoo. Very excited about all these things coming within the next year. And the same thing at City Park Lakes. We're hopefully we'll start the dredging of that project later this year or early next year, but we're looking forward to having a healthier lake with safer trails to walk around. And so those are just a couple of quite a few we have going on right now.
What would you like the public to keep in mind about BREC?
Well, that it's your park system and that it's funded with your tax dollars. So we want to hear from you about what we're doing well, what we're not so doing well, what we could be doing better, what we need to start doing, stop doing. Again, part of our success is because of the input we receive from the community. So we welcome that input and we look forward to working with the community to bring more great things to the parish.
How can people get more information?
Well, we have a great website, www.brec.org. If you go there, hopefully you'll find everything you need to know about what's going on at BREC.